Do you ever feel like you understand everything in English, but when you speak, something still sounds a little bit off? Maybe the TH sounds make you nervous. Maybe words like world, girl, or even word feel horrible. Maybe the vowels in words like ship and sheep get confusing. Well, today, in this lesson, I'm going to show you the trickiest sounds of British English, and I'm going to give you some practical tips to master them so you can sound clearer, more natural, and more confident in British English. And remember, if you want to learn even more about this lesson, there is a free PDF for you to download in the description below. But hello, you wonderful people. My name is Roy, your British English teacher, sometimes known as British English Teacher Roy. And I've been a teacher of English for nearly 15 years, helping students from all over the world refine their pronunciation and learn the modern British RP accent. I've taught in top schools in London and Cambridge. I've worked for the BBC, and I've trained thousands of learners to speak with clarity and confidence in a modern British RP accent. And here's the truth. These tricky sounds aren't about talent or age, they're about training. Your mouth and brain can be rewired, just like thousands of my students have done before. And in this lesson, we're going to look at the 10 trickiest sounds in a modern British RP accent. Now, it's very important, before we begin, to say there are lots of accents across the UK, all of them wonderful. But today I'll be teaching you in a modern British RP accent, which is primarily spoken in the southeast of England, but it's actually technically non-regional, so it could be found all over the UK. But why do tricky sounds matter, and why are they in fact tricky? Well, all accents have signature sounds. These are sounds which belong to that accent, and they make them quite unique. And when a sound doesn't exist in your first language, your muscles don't know how to produce it. So effectively, if your mouth is never put in the position where you make those sounds, your mouth and brain won't automatically know how to do it. This is why pronunciation, unlike something like grammar and vocabulary, which is memorizing words, is also about training muscles and habits. That's why you need practice and guidance, not just exposure. So let's talk about the first of our tricky sounds, and that would be what people refer to as the TH sounds. Notice that I say sounds because there are two, potentially three, that we need to talk about. So first of all, we have something called the voiceless TH and the voiced TH. So what's really fortunate about these is both of these two sounds are made in the same way with one fundamental difference, but where we put our tongue and our mouths is the same. So to make the voiceless TH, or to make the TH sounds in words like think, put the tip of your tongue, that's the end bit, sometimes referred to as the blade, on the top teeth. It shouldn't be too exposed. It's not, you don't need to turn into a lizard. Not like that, sorry. But put the tip of your tongue on your top teeth and lightly blow air through. It's like that. It's like a leaking of air through the top teeth. So this voiceless TH appears in words like think, thought, Thursday. Think, thought, Thursday. You can repeat after me. Think, thought, Thursday. Now, the difference between this and the voiced TH is that we use our vocal cords. So the voiceless one, put the finger here and you should feel no vibration. But instead, in words like this, that, and they, you should feel a vibration. So it's th, th, th. Again, the same position of the tongue and the teeth and all that, but this time we are using our vocal cords. Now, I often compare the voiceless TH to a snake, and the voiced TH to sounding a bit like a bee. And remember I said there's technically a third TH sound? Well, certain words pronounce it as a t, like the River Thames and Thomas, but the main ones we really need to focus on are those two sounds there. The voiceless TH in think and the voiced TH in this. No lesson would be complete without a mention of the light and dark L. Now, I love these. It sounds like some kind of dark magic, like some kind of Harry Potter spell gone wrong, the dark L. But fundamentally, they are two different sounds. Now, the light L appears in words like, love, and letter. So what is the light L? Well, it's the standard L sound that we know. To make this sound, our tongue should be pretty much like that in our mouths, with the tip of the tongue touching that hard bit behind the top teeth. So the tip of the tongue should be resting on that hard bit behind the teeth. Now, that hard bit is actually known as the alveolar ridge, but between friends, we could just call it the hard bit behind the top teeth. So we put it there and make this sound. L, l. And then the light L normally appears in front of a vowel sound. So we kind of release it and drop into the vowel. Maybe to practice it, you could put the tip of the tongue there and go like, love, letter. Now, this one, the light L, doesn't tend to cause too many problems, but it's the dark L which is the big one. So what is the dark L? Well, it's actually an allophone, which means it's kind of variant of that light L sound. And the dark L is a slightly heavier sound. The tongue has a different position. We tend to see the dark L before consonant sounds or in the final position of an isolated word. So a word like girl, the way we make this sound is the back part of the tongue is actually closer to the top of the mouth, the roof of the mouth, the soft palate. So while the light L was kind of at a 45-degree angle, this one is much further up in the mouth. There is a gap between the roof of the mouth and the tongue, but this time the back part of the tongue is closer to the soft palate. That's the softer bit at the back of your mouth. Some people say that the tip of the tongue is closer to the back of the alveolar ridge, or some people feel it's pointing up. But the key difference is it's a heavier sound. It sounds more like ul. So the light L is l and the dark L is ul. A key difference between the light L, which we release, and the dark L is that we don't release it. So in a word like girl, we pronounce it like this. Ul. Girl. We don't release it, so it doesn't sound like girl. That sounds closest to the light L, so we hold it there at the end until the sound is finished. Girl. We also see this dark L in a word like world. Now this one's quite interesting because we move from the dark L into a d sound, which is actually on the alveolar ridge. So people get a bit confused as to why we do release that sound. Well, it's a different sound we're releasing. We're releasing the d sound. So it moves from d. Slow it down to help you. World. And you'll also hear it at the end of a word like people when it's an isolated word. So we have girl, world, people. The next tricky sound that we need to look at is a vowel sound. Now, this in the phonemic chart looks like a number 3 with the double dots, but it is the sound. It's the same sound that appears in the word, world, and girl. This one terrifies a lot of learners, but it's the sound in the middle of word and first. Lips are neutral. The tip of the tongue is kind of in the middle of the mouth, and it's overall quite relaxed. Now, because of those double dots, it's a slightly long sound. Tip of the tongue in the middle of the mouth, word. Now, notice that in a modern British RP accent in the words word, first, world, and girl, we do not pronounce the R. It's not a sound, it's so it's not girl, it's girl in a modern British RP accent. In fact, that pronunciation of girl sounds closer to a general American pronunciation. A good sentence you could practice this with, as I often like to teach on my courses, is something like, the girl heard the first word. Say that 10 times when you've had a glass of wine. The girl heard the first word. Two vowel sounds that absolutely terrify students are the I and E. We often hear people talking about ship and sheep, or chip and cheap, and sometimes some slightly ruder words like bitch and beach. Yes, that is a commonly requested question that I get asked a lot on social media, but one tiny change of vowel can change everything. And what I need to tell you at this point is that the I sound in a word like ship is not just a shorter version of the E sound that's in sheep. It's actually a slightly different position. The shorter version of the longer E sound is just E. If you keep the tongue in exactly the same position for E and I, they're going to sound like the same sound, just shorter. Let's talk about that longer E sound first, the same sound we see in the words sheep, seat, and leave. The tip of the tongue, while not touching the roof of the mouth, is very, very close towards the back of the top teeth. E, just below the alveolar ridge, the hard bit behind the top teeth. And we slightly hold that sound. For example, l, e, v, leave. Now, interestingly, it's something for another lesson, but the E in sheep and seat is a tiny bit shorter than the E in leave. But now let's compare it with the I in ship. So this time, the tip of the tongue is slightly further down and slightly further back. Not dramatically, it's just a fraction lower and a fraction further back. I. So we have E, I, E, I, E, I. My tongue slightly moves. So this one is a shorter sound. So we have sh, I, p, ship, l, I, v, live, sit. So short, we have ship, sit, and live. And the longer E sounds slightly further forward, slightly further up, sheep, seat, and leave. If you want a sentence, I saw a big sheep leave its seat on the ship. Don't know why a sheep was sitting on a ship, but apparently it was. And remember, we don't overly unnaturally hold that sound for too long. It's not sheep. But if it helps at first, you can always bring it down later. Sheep, 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 sheep. Two words that learners often hate are cap and cup. The first one, cap, has that a vowel sound, whereas cup has the vowel sound. So the a sound we see in words like cap, cat, and bad. For the a sound, the tip of the tongue is closer to the bottom of the bottom teeth, where the teeth touch the gum. I spend a lot of time with my finger in my mouth trying to teach pronunciation. Ah, ah. Look at the shape of my mouth. Ah. Whereas the sound, the tip of the tongue is slightly more towards the middle of the mouth, still down towards the bottom, but maybe slightly higher up. And this time it's the sound. This sound is the same sound we see in words like cup, cut, and bus. So we have cap and cup, cat and cut. So for the a sound in cat, the tip of the tongue should be closer to the front of the mouth, whereas the sound, it should be more in the middle of the mouth. And on a side note, this sound actually doesn't appear in some accents in the north of England. So instead of cup, they'll say cup or cut or bud, rather than cup, cut, and bud. But this is a very important sound in a modern British RP accent. Next, in terms of tricky sounds, we have the diphthong O. O. It appears in words like hello, go, and show. There are a couple of things to say about this, but first of all, even simple words like hello can sound off if you miss this vowel or you mispronounce this vowel. In a modern British RP accent, we would say hello, hello. It's smooth and gliding. So during this sound, the tongue actually moves. It moves from the middle to a bit more up. Oh. One big mistake that learners make is exaggerating that movement. They go, oh, and that doesn't really sound quite right, or they don't move it enough. Oh, and it sounds more like you're swallowing the sound. Don't exaggerate, but also make sure you do move the mouth somewhat during the O sound. Say it with me. Hello, go, show. I've done a whole lesson on the pronunciation of hello. You can find that in the description. Another sound that is incredibly important in a modern British RP accent is the long R vowel sound. For this sound, your mouth needs to be very open and your tongue is low and the tip is towards the back of the mouth. I sometimes refer to this sound as the dentist's vowel sound. This is the sound that the dentist or doctor asks you to make when you open your mouth and you say ah and your mouth opens. Now, interestingly, my wife, Luciana, who's from Brazil, wanted me to talk about her difficulty with this sound. Originally, she was saying the word car as car. She wasn't opening her mouth enough and her tip of her tongue was closer to the front and top of her mouth. Now, she asked me, Roy, am I saying this correctly? Car. I said, not quite. You need to open your mouth more and drop your tongue down and towards the back. So she started to do car. And the problem was not necessarily with the word car, because I understood if she said, is she going to drive the car or going to drive the car, as she said it, I understood. The thing is, that sound problem, that sound, that mispronunciation of that sound bled into other words as well. And while she focused so heavily on the dark L's, the light L's, the TH sounds, she neglected to change that vowel sound because she thought in her accent it was close enough. So to make that sound, we need to drop our tongue down and towards the back. It appears in words like car and far. And I said this word is very important in a modern British RP accent. There is something called the trap bath split. So in some accents in the north of England, some words that in the south are pronounced with that R sound in the north get pronounced with a sound. So I would say bath and grass and path, whereas somebody from the north may say bath, grass, and pass. They are both correct. They are just different accents pronouncing things in a slightly different way. It's just that I'm teaching you a modern British RP accent, and the R vowel sound is more common in the south than it is in the north. But in the north, this sound still exists. They still say car, they don't say ka. And no lesson would be complete when talking about a modern British RP accent or British English without talking about the O vowel sound. This sound is more towards the back and the sort of bottom of the mouth. It's more down here. The tip of the tongue needs to be down here. And it is a short O vowel sound. It's the same vowel sound we see in a word like dog. A lot of movements in that one small word. D, O, G. So to make that sound, put the tip of the tongue towards the back of the mouth, and it's kind of like a third of the way up in the mouth. Oh. We see it in words like dog, sock, got, and fox. Why is this so important? Well, that sound doesn't appear in a general American accent. Quite commonly, instead of the O vowel sound, they'll use the R vowel sound. So they'll say something closer to dog than dog. You can practice this sound with the word dog. I love dogs. You can tell me if you love dogs down in the description below. Maybe tell me the name of your dog, because my dog is called Leia and she is an absolute princess. Now, if you'd like to keep practicing, then I've prepared something very special for you. In the description, you can download today's free PDF with exercises for all of these tricky sounds. And what we've looked at today in this lesson is just a fraction of what you'll find on my full course, The Ultimate British Pronunciation Guide. Now remember, fluency isn't only about knowing more words, it's about training the sounds, the rhythm, and the melody of English, and you can do it. I'll see you in the next lesson.